story about Rabbi Jonathan Sacks.
Thank you, Marion. I'm only too pleased if you can hear and see me with this load shedding and other things. So, yes, I thought the best way actually of my main part of my brochure would be a tribute to Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sacks by the President of Israel himself, Isaac Herzog. And therefore, I've asked Jacob kindly, as part of my brochure, to share this video as a tribute to Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. Thank you, Jacob.
Few figures in our history have shaped our global Jewish conversation, dear friends, as much as Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, Zecher Tzadik Levacha. His call for a Judaism engaged with the world, his appeal to respect the dignity of difference, his cry to heal the fractured world, all these have inspired me personally and so many Jews all around the world. Rabbi Sacks was a giant of a man, a rabbi whose prose reads like poetry, whose words in the magically soft and wise voice touched our hearts and souls and our minds, whose humility, whose kindness, whose brilliance of mind enriched the Jewish world and indeed the entire world. His untimely passing 1 year ago has left an enormous void in our collective Jewish life. This Shabbat, dear friends, Jews from all around the world will read the Torah portion of Chayei, and it is striking that Rabbi Sacks' Yortzeit coincides with this parsha. We read that Abraham mourned the death of his wife Sarah and found two ways to honor her legacy. First, he acquired a burial plot, a piece of land that would forever hold her memory. But more importantly, Abraham found a wife for Isaac. He made sure not just to honor Sarah's past, but to give her a future. He made sure that there would be hearts and minds in which to hold her memory, that the great project that he had begun with Sarah would live on. This was Abraham's greatness. Even in grief, he was invested in the future. When he found a void, he filled it with love. Rabbi Sacks inspired and continues to inspire us to invest in Jewish future, to understand that we are all part of one great Jewish story, and that we are each called upon to add our own chapter to this story. I'm so moved, therefore, to see Jews from all around the world participating in this wonderful Communities in Conversation initiative, honoring Rabbi Sacks' impact on our world by talking and learning. Just like Abraham, everyone engaged in this great project is honoring the past by investing in our future together. We are filling the void with love, and through love, we heal our fractured world and build a home together. I sorely miss Rabbi Sacks very much, and I'm comforted by the outpouring of love for him 1 year after his tragically passing away, as well as his enormous writing, his enormous legacy, and his wonderful ideas. May his memory be an eternal blessing for all of us and for humanity at large.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Marion and Jacob. It's now back to me, Marion, for the rest of the drosha. Fine. So, thank you, Jacob, for sharing that. And for, Rabbi Sacks actually has written his droshas for the entire year, not knowing he was going to pass away. And so we still have access to them. And of course, tomorrow morning, when we actually read from the Torah, we'll be going into it in much more depth. But I just wanted to share a few of his insights that he has specifically wrote for this Shabbat. Isn't that prophetic? And he starts with a beautiful story, which I'm going to share with you, He says in 1966, an 11-year-old black boy moved with his parents and family into a white neighborhood in Washington. This young boy, sitting with his brothers and sisters on the porch, was sure that they were not going to be welcome there. And sure enough, no one stopped to pass by. When they came home, they just passed by. They ignored them when a car passed by. And then one white woman coming home from her work passed by on the other side of the road. And she turned to the children and with a broad smile said, "Welcome." She disappeared into her house and emerged a few minutes later with a tray laden with drinks and sandwiches, which she brought over to the children. That young man who'd been thinking for the 15 minutes or more that he and his siblings had sat there with no one greeting them, was thinking that people hate us, we'll never be welcome. That one act of kindness changed his life. And Rabbi Sachs tells us further that that young man named Stephen Carter actually became a professor at Yale and wrote a book about what he learned that day from this one little gesture of kindness from one woman when the rest of the world went by. And this is what he found in that one gesture, and this is how he saw our Judaism. And let me share that with you. He says that one gesture by that woman, her name was Sarah Kestenbaum, who died young, unfortunately. He said it was no coincidence that she was a religious Jew, because he then found out in the Jewish tradition that such civility, that's what he calls it, is actually called chesed. The doing of acts of kindness is derived from our understanding, as we say every Shabbat, our God is one, Adonai Echad, therefore humanity is one. And he said, it so amazed him, he said, that little one act of kindness changed his life forever. And look what it led to. It led to him as a professor teaching everyone kindness, to be kind, to fight all forms of hatred or bigotry or racism. A single act, a small act like that would never have been known if he hadn't written about it when he became a professor. And so I'm just going to concentrate on that. We see how kindness, as President Herzog mentioned, it is so intrinsic to us that even Isaac's wife was chosen on that only one feature that the servant Eliezer watched for, and that was kindness, that she not only gave him water, she watered his camels first. And I find that extraordinary, another indication in our Judaism of how important it is to be kind, not only to the stranger, but also to each other and also to all of God's creation, and particularly the animal world. So let me conclude now with what the incredible Rabbi Jonathan Sachs had to say. He said, we all know about tzedakah, and it's one of the greatest traits in the Jewish people that we know repentance, prayer, and tzedakah help a fractured world. And tzedakah is in all our hearts, which is charity, as our wonderful shul with Marion and others, and as all the religions in South Africa, and many, many other people as well give to the poor, the destitute, the homeless. But here Jonathan Sachs is pointing something else to us. What a rabbi. He said, chesed is different to tzedakah. It's in some respects, it may even be considered even higher. Our masters taught that loving kindness, chesed, is greater than charity in 3 ways, although charity is essential to keep and repair the world. Charity is done with one's own money, while loving kindness may also be done with one's money or with one's person, with one's words, with one's actions. Charity is done only to the poor, while loving kindness may be given to all we meet, to each other, to the rich, to the poor alike. Charity is given to the living only, while loving kindness may be shown to the living and to the dead. That's from Talmud. Chesed, loving kindness in its many forms, is synonymous with our Jewish life. And it's one of our great pillars as well, because it is the way of God. And just in ultimate conclusion, it says that even when we lost the temple and people were crying for the temple, Rabbi Jonathan said, don't grieve. We have other means of atonement, no less effective than sacrifice, and that is by loving kindness to each other. You remember we lost our temples because the Jews had no loving kindness to each other. They were fighting with each other. And perhaps in our era, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. The Jews are renowned for their tzedakah, their kindness to the stranger, the poor. Isn't it time also that we become known for our chesed to each other, be it in our own committees, in our own shul, be it amongst the different streams of Judaism, or be it amongst the Jew who doesn't even go to shul. And so the late Abraham Joshua Heschel, that great rabbi who Martin Luther King said, in addition to tzedakah, we have to show kindness to ourselves, our own people, to the others, to all that think differently to ourselves. He said, when I was young, I admired cleverness. Now that I am old, I admire kindness more. There is deep wisdom in the words. I'm reading to you Rabbi Sachs's words. It is what led Eliezer to choose Rebecca. And perhaps it has changed millions of lives through that one gesture of kindness that Stephen Carter got from that one Jewish woman. And Rabbi Jonathan concludes with the words of Wordsworth, the famous British poet. The best portion of a good man and a woman's life is their little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love to each other, to all they meet. Shabbat Shalom. Back to you, Marion.